All right. Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Carrie Jorgenson, one of the senior college coaches here at ESM Prep, and very excited to be here chatting about demonstrated interest in campus visits. And with me, I've got...
I'm Ted Murguia. Thank you. I'm also a senior college coach at ESM Prep. I've been doing it for 5 years. And we hope that you enjoy this probably short webinar, but we encourage you to ask questions along the way anytime. Put them in the chat, put up your hand. We'll notice. So with that, why don't we get started right away?
Great. I'm going to share my screen here. And yeah, so as mentioned, we wanted to chat with you about demonstrated interest in campus visits, two topics that are important to think about, especially as you are maybe in your sophomore year, probably the most pivotal time to start to pay attention to these things, sophomore, junior, fall of senior year. And so specifically, we wanted to chat with you about, 1 second, trying to figure out how to move the slide here. There we go. A couple of different things, really defining what demonstrated interest is, why it matters, what colleges are in fact tracking when we say demonstrated interest, and how to actually effectively demonstrate your interest. And then the nuts and bolts of campus visits, why they're important, what the goals are, when to go, etc. All right. So I think it's important to first kind of define demonstrated interest. It is exactly how it sounds, and it's how you engage with a college and demonstrate your interest towards that particular college. Everything is digital now, and so with that comes tools for colleges to be able to really track how engaged an applicant is with that particular college. And Ted, why does demonstrated interest matter?
Well, so a couple things. Why does it matter to two people? So first of all, why does it matter to the college? Colleges are very focused on what they call their yield, which is what percentage of the students to whom they offer admission actually enroll. So as you can imagine, at the Ivy Leagues, a very large percentage of the students that are offered admission actually enroll in the school because, you got into Harvard. That makes sense. But the undercurrent of that is that the rankings of colleges use that as one of the primary indicators of quality of the school and how desirable the school is. So demonstrated interest is a way for the college to figure out whether or not you're actually going to enroll if they offer you admission. And that's really important to them. That's why early decision exists, because there you are promising that you're going to enroll if they offer you admission. So a lot of the metrics that the colleges track are toward that number to try to figure out what it's going to be and make it better so their rankings go up. Why does it matter to you? It's because it's one of those things that's easy not to do. You'll get a lot of emails as soon as you get on these. I have students right now, they're seniors, and as they're looking for their email that acknowledges that their application was submitted, they share their screen with me, and I see the hundreds of emails that are unopened. And so it's as easy to do as that, but you have to do it. So it matters to you because for the schools that consider demonstrated interest, it actually will help you present a stronger application. So Carrie, why don't you tell us a little bit about what they're actually tracking?
Yeah, so like a lot of things with college admissions, we don't always know exactly what a college is tracking, and every college has kind of their own formula. But our best guess is, things like, did the student actually take the time to open the email, click on the link, engage with whatever the content is, and then take action? Is the students actively signing up for things like information sessions, which are 45 minutes of your time and a great way for you to learn more about the admissions policies of a campus and then about the campus itself? Has a student taken the time to come and visit our campus if they're able to, or sign up for a virtual tour if they're not able to physically get on campus? Has the student signed up for, sometimes colleges will have optional interviews. Optional in our world pretty much always means do it. And that can be a way that colleges will demonstrate just how excited an applicant is about their particular school. So it's one of those things where it's the student's opportunity to really be able to show a college that they are in fact engaged. And it can be that, I think, defining factor. If you have two applicants that are completely equal, maybe those applicants go to committee and an admissions team, and one is really taking the time to engage and the other hasn't. That can certainly be something that will help sway a decision because of yield, as Ted had mentioned earlier. So how do you actually effectively demonstrate interest? What ideas do you have, Ted, for that?
Yeah. Well, so one important thing is to remember how they're tracking it, right? They have all the sophisticated marketing tools that any good web marketing company has. So they do track. Did you open the email? Did you click on the link? How long did you stay on the page? How did you, did you follow up? Did you keep going through the website? So they track a lot. The good news of them tracking a lot is that it is fairly easy to demonstrate interest, right? It's as simple as just open the emails. And Carrie and I were talking earlier, and if you just spend 15 minutes a week, clicking through some emails and clicking through on the links, that is enough to really distinguish yourself from the majority, because the majority of applicants don't touch it. And it really will come down to, in committee, one of the questions that always gets asked is, will this student enroll? And they'll look at it. Well, yeah, the explanation in committee is going to be, yeah, the student's been opening all our emails, spending a lot of time on our website. Clearly, the student is very interested. And a lot of times the answer to that is just a flat zero. No, they haven't looked at anything. We have no record of them even coming on campus or anything. And so it's fairly easy to beat zero. And there's no need to really kill yourself spending a lot of time. In fact, I would say do what's useful to you and clicking those emails, right? Read the email. Some of those are actually very valuable, particularly if there's some major that you're interested in. They'll often in those emails, they'll tell you about their special programs, about studying abroad. And that's just, they send them out for a reason. It is useful information, not all of it, but some of it. So I think if you just take the time to open the ones from the colleges you're interested in and spend a little time genuinely learning about it, that is plenty. You will get hundreds and hundreds of emails as you get signed up for this. So understanding that it can be a time sink, don't overinvest in it. But if you have a dream school, I would absolutely open every email from that dream school. And then other ways to effectively demonstrate interest, Carrie started to hint about, but get online and sign up for things. Especially if the admissions officer comes to visit your school, go introduce yourself. You can possibly do it as a junior or even a sophomore. That's less likely, but as a junior, go introduce yourself and keep in touch, because the person that's going to answer the question in committee about whether you're going to attend or not is a person that visited your high school. So if that person knows you and remembers you, the answer in committee is going to be, oh yeah, I've been talking to her since last year as a junior. We exchange emails once a month. She's genuinely very, very interested, and yeah, she's going to come. And that can absolutely be the difference in committee. Carrie, other ideas?
Absolutely. I think this is really a good time for students to take ownership of the process. And by spending those 15 minutes a week going through the emails, it's going to help students really get a better grasp of why a school belongs on their college list or not. So it's useful for many reasons, but also providing that clarity for students. And a lot of times colleges ask, when it comes time to actually apply, why are you interested in X college? And if you have the demonstrated interest to back up what you're saying in that essay response, it just comes across so much more genuinely. When a student can say, when I sat in on an information session presented by, a professor discussing economic policy, I was really drawn to blah, 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 blah. And it comes alive so much more when you actually have had that genuine engagement with the college. So it's important from the strategy standpoint and to get into college and kind of set yourself up for when it comes time to those committee decisions, but it's also more importantly important for students to really get that sense for themselves as to whether or not that college is in fact a good fit for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just at its core, it's engagement with a college in every possible way that you can engage. And so we wanted to actually show you within the Common App, which is one of the main platforms that students use to apply to colleges. Each college asks in their own unique way. They have a section called contacts typically, and they will ask, how basically have you engaged with us? And so we wanted to show you what that looked like. And so this is for Texas Christian University. And they are, this is their contacts page. So have you previously applied to TCU? No. And then it asks a variety of contacts, and students, sometimes there's 5 slots, sometimes there's 10. I always have my students answer as many as they possibly can. Sometimes we'll have options like social media. If the student has never engaged with the college on social media, I say, let's click social media, and why don't you go follow their Instagram page right now? Have you attended a campus visit on campus? So in this case, this student had, and so they were able to say. And then their strategy to ordering the contacts, and telling the college that by me visiting your campus, that was the most impactful thing for me. And so I'm going to put that as my number 1. And then you came to my high school and I took the time to go to that admission rep visit and engage. And then I've spent some time on your website. And oh, by the way, I know an alumni, and we've blacked out the name, but this student was able to actually put the name of an alumni from TCU on the application to further demonstrate to the school that they've engaged with an alumni and had conversations and were influenced by that person to actually apply. So it's pretty robust what these colleges will ask. And this is sort of the end product of demonstrated interest. And right. So we wanted to show that.
And this one is your responsibility. And I can't tell you how many times we get to this section of the Common App and a student says, I didn't do any of these. Sometimes it's the college's fault because the choices they give are incredibly limited. But most give you a wide variety of choices. College counselor told me about it. And when the answer is just blank, it's jarring to me. It's like, so why are you applying if you haven't engaged with the college at all?
Yeah.
And it, we have busy lives, and it's tough to do this, but know that you're going to get asked a question in your application, and it's way better if you have something to answer there.
Totally. So then, of course, I think the next natural question in people's mind is, well, what colleges actually do track demonstrated interest versus those that don't? And so there's a way that you can figure this out. It's through something called the Common Data Set. And so if you just Google the college's name and then Common Data Set, most colleges have what's called a Common Data Set, and it's a set of criteria that they make public around their admissions. And so this is TCU, staying on that same college, and you can see here at the bottom where it says level of applicants' interest, and then this column that says considered, that is in fact checked. So TCU is telling us that they do in fact consider demonstrated interest. The most important things that TCU is considering, should be no surprise here, is academic GPA and the rigor of the coursework that the student's taking. But in that set of criteria that they're considering, demonstrated interest is there, and it's in that considered category. So yeah, it's an important piece of the puzzle. And we just wanted to make sure that you were aware that there was a way to figure this out.
And when you get to the Common Data Set, to get to this section, if you notice on the top left there, it says C7. The Common Data Set is actually a very long document, of which section C is the admissions part of it. And in particular, here's C7 is the one where they address these the factors influencing in admission decisions. So just, it takes a while to scroll down when you find it, but also make sure you look at the most recent common data set, because it changes from year to year. Usually colleges have multiple versions. They just keep them all in one directory where you can just download them. So just get the most recent one, so you're looking at recent data.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, similar, one way that it is very important to show demonstrated interest, and just an important step in the whole college exploration process, is visiting college campuses. So we wanted to just end demonstrated interest with a couple of takeaways and then transition to talking about campus visits. We won't rattle through all of these. After the webinar, wanted to make note that actually you're going to be sent some key takeaways. So all of these will be on there for you regarding just things to consider as you think about demonstrated interest. Any other points you wanted to make, Ted, on this topic before we
No, I think this is good. We covered all of these, but if anybody has any questions about it before we move on to campus visits, now's the time, or any time from now on. Just let us know. But
Excellent.
So with that, let's go on to campus visits.
Campus visits. Okay, so we'll chat about that for a bit. So when to go? Ted, when would you say visiting a college campus, like what is the absolute ideal time for a student to set foot on a college campus?
I guess there's a couple levels of answers to that. So when in the student's life, the most common visits start as early as sophomore year, but usually junior year, spring break is a big visiting time. But I find that by junior year spring break, there's a college list already developed, and the criteria aren't all that clear unless you started visiting colleges sophomore year. And here's the difference. By spring of junior year, the thought process is already very developed, and students are already thinking, go to the college, am I going to apply to this college or not? Sophomore year is a time where you can go to a college just to get a feeling for what's important and what's not. So what's the vibe like? What things do I like about a campus and what things do I don't like? Not necessarily making a binary decision on whether or not to apply to the college, but much rather looking for attributes of schools. Is a big school more fun than a small school, or the opposite? Do I want to be in a very pretty campus? Does that matter to me? Can I imagine myself in these dorms? And it turns out, dorms are very different between colleges. And some people totally don't care. And some people see a room and say, I would never want to live here. I'm not doing this, right? So that's kind of one thing to do. Sophomore year is a good time to start. Junior year spring break is a great time to go. Now, second is when during the calendar year. So again, spring break is really good because classes are in session at the college. Visiting campuses during the summer is very, very different. Not having students around. In fact, I live next to Stanford, so I used to go to the campus in the summer fairly frequently. And it is completely different. First of all, it's full of high school students that are there for, some sort of 1 week or two-week camp to do whatever. And most of the faculty are not there, and it's just really drastically different. Now, you can still obviously get to see the place and get to see what it feels like, but chances are you're not going to be there during the summer either. So during the school year is important. The second thing that's important is to do it during during weekdays. For a couple of reasons. As weekdays, you get a lot more of a feeling of going to classes. Sometimes you can even go into the class and experience that. And importantly, the admissions office is open. One of the things you want to do when you go to visit a campus is go see if by any chance you can meet your admissions officer. So that also ends up influencing when is a good idea to go. Admissions officers go on the road starting in August. They go to whatever territories they're responsible for, and they go visit all the high schools, hence your opportunity to visit them at your high school. So they're gone from mid to late August until the end of October. So visiting a campus then is not ideal. And then they read applications between November and November all the way to March. But at least they're on campus. So that is, the admissions officer's life is tough, because when they're working really hard. But sometimes you can, stop by the admissions office and just say hi. And, if they have a minute, they can probably take a break from breathing, and they'll come out and say hi and great to meet you. And then you can, at that point, just ask, can I keep in touch? So better to go in the winter. And if your spring break is around when they're finishing making their decisions, or better yet, when in April, when they're already done, then you're in really good shape. Then they kind of get in this recruiting mode, and they want to meet the next class because they already made their admissions. April is recruiting month at all colleges. Basically, you get notifications of regular decisions by the end of March. April, they have admitted student days, all sorts of stuff, and they're really engaged with the students. And then by May 1st, you need to make a decision. So if you have a choice, go in April. If not, anytime between January and March is a very good idea. And then obviously try to get them when the admissions officers visit your high school. So Carrie, you want to talk a little bit about the process? How do you actually book it?
Sure. And just one last thing on the when to go, as for any parents or students in like the freshman, sophomore age range, I would also just encourage you to, say you have family that lives out in DC and you're going to be there in the summer. Yeah, it's not the ideal because there's, campus is not alive the way that it is in the school year. But try and get in as many college campuses as you possibly can early, just so that you can start to get a feel for things and make college visits out of visits or trips that you're going on anyway. And it's really not that hard to make a tour happen. So in terms of how to book, as Ted mentioned, April is the all-time ideal time to go. And so most people have that same idea. So I encourage you to sort of think about your itinerary, probably starting in January, lay it out, and then you will want to start to get on colleges' websites to start to book. And so it's usually pretty easy. Each college has like a calendar that's housed on their admission website, which we'll show you in just a bit. And it's just a matter of signing up for a campus tour. A lot of times colleges will do a combination of a campus tour and an information session, and they'll offer maybe 2 to 3 different time slots per day, Monday through Friday. The thing is that these spaces go so quickly for typical spring break times. So it is pretty important to get on it sooner than later. But of course, I think I was just looking for a student who wants to go somewhere in March, and nothing's available yet. But we will be monitoring that. And over the course of the next couple of months, probably starting January, February, all those dates will start to open up. And it's amazing. I mean, I remember once I was booking a tour for a student at Stanford, and they published when they would have the tours available. I got online and it was I think 2 o'clock or something on a Thursday, and it was 2:01, and almost every space was filled. And so not all colleges are obviously that crazy, and they do open up more spaces, but it is something that if you want to make sure you can take those official tours, you want to plan ahead and have a good idea of where to go. We wouldn't recommend visiting more than 2 campuses a day because you want to soak up as much as possible when you're on the campus. And that includes it includes a stop to the admissions office, just like Ted mentioned, hopefully connecting with somebody in the office, in the ideal world, your actual admission officer. It includes an official tour. It includes, maybe stopping in a coffee shop and picking up the school newspaper to read about the school, picking up on conversations from students, and really just being an observer to try and soak up as much of the campus as possible. And then it also includes spending some time familiarizing yourself with the surrounding areas. So booking is pretty straightforward. You're really just going to the website and finding that time that works for you and your family and securing that registration. I will say just a tip when you book, It will ask for the student's full legal name, so make sure you put that in there, because then this starts to build your kind of record with the college, and this is how they start to track your demonstrated interest. So you also want to make sure that, you know, if mom or dad are the ones that are booking the visits, that's great, but make sure that you put the student's email in there so that the student is the one that's in the system. And then this is a really great opportunity, excuse me, for you as parents to start to give the students some ownership in the process and have them flag their emails and create a folder and put the confirmation emails into that folder so that the student can be organized before the trip. The confirmation emails typically have everything you need to know in terms of where to park, when to arrive, etc. And so just staying organized around the booking process is really a pivotal thing.
If I can add to that, one thing when planning these trips, sign up for these visits first before you plan any car rentals or hotels or anything, because I guarantee you the problem is going to be you can't get the tour the day you want to. And so then once you get all those tours booked, then you can figure out how to wiggle around and get to the right places. And another thing, just as a general guideline, and there are lots of exceptions to this, but I know when I'm planning tours, I think, okay, we can do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. In general, they tend to, the admissions office presentation starts at 10, goes for about an hour, and 11 to noon is a guided tour by a student. Then the afternoon one generally starts at 2, and same thing, 2 to 3 is the admissions presentation, and 3 to 4 is the guided tour. So in fact, in some cases, if you're signing up for the official tours, you can't do a third one in a day. But I agree with Carrie 100%. Doing more than, it's exhausting. And the other thing is that it's confusing. If you visit 10 colleges in 5 days, I guarantee you they will start to blur. So another tip, we'll get this to as it goes, but just since I'm on it, when you visit the college, get your thoughts down before you leave campus, because even just visiting 2 in a day, the first 2 you'll probably track. By the second day, it's all going to get very, very fuzzy. So what I do, I actually record my impressions on my phone. So I take there's a recording on the iPhone and recording function on the iPhone, and it also tags and dates the when I did it. This actually even tells me, like I have on my phone right now, Santa Clara University and the date that I was there. So I tell my students, as you're sitting in the car, before you turn the car on, if you know, student and parent, just have a conversation for 3 or 4 minutes about what your impressions were, and just record it then and there on the spot. It's easy to do, and it will give you way better notes of your impressions than if you wait till that night.
Totally. Well, it's fresh in your mind. You want to capture all of that. And then, you know, those couple minutes of recordings or notes, however you choose to do it, that can become your entire essay. When a college says, why do you want to apply? Why are you interested in X university? You have the proof right there. And that can at least help you to formulate your thoughts and remember why you like that particular school. So, you know, in the event that you're not able to actually physically get to every campus on your list, which in most cases is the case, you know, students start out with maybe 20, 25 schools that they're interested in. That's a lot of colleges to visit. So if you're not able to actually physically get on campus and take an official tour, I would say one of the only silver linings out of the whole pandemic is that colleges have gotten really great at offering online options for students to be able to take online campus visits. So we would really suggest that maybe you do both. You know, maybe you're able to physically visit a campus, and then before you really decide if that school belongs on your list, maybe you do an online campus tour as well. There's lots of websites out there. One that comes to mind that we use a lot is uvisit.com, and they have just online guided tours for students. They do collect your information, again, a way for demonstrated interest. And then you can go and you can click through, and it's as if you're on a guided tour, just virtually. So try and sign up for as many online visits as you possibly can, as well as online information sessions, because those are chock full of really solid information that will help you really better define your list as well as demonstrate interest. So I wanted to share the screen again and let you show you what an actual booking appointment page looks like. So this is for Claremont McKenna College, I'm in Northern California, so down south in Claremont. And it's a calendar. And so you'll click on the date that you're interested in going. This particular college, it looks like, did offer one Saturday during the month where they had some tours. So there are occasionally Saturdays and Sunday, really never Sundays. I don't think I've ever seen Sunday, but there's occasionally Saturdays. And then they do offer a couple of different times. So you just want to be mindful. It's really pretty simple to find these pages. If you can Google, Claremont McKenna college visit, you'll pretty easily get here, or it's embedded within the admissions website. So this is what a typical page looks like. You click on the date, you click on the time, and then it will take you about 5 minutes. It's going to collect pretty basic demographic information about you. They'll want to know what high school you go to, what year you're applying for, academic interests. Don't feel like you have to, be committed to those interests, but just give your best guess. And you want, again, for the student's email to be the one that is on there so that the student gets into the system, not the parent. And that's really the gist of booking a college visit.
Yeah. I want to add a little bit on the goals of the college visit. The most important thing is really to get, like we said earlier, just get what you like and what you don't like. And the idea with that is that you get the attributes that you like, and you probably found different attributes at different colleges that you like, but that can be a really useful list of criteria that your college counselor can then use to suggest other colleges that meet those criteria. So again, stay away from the binary, am I going to apply here or not? And go for the individual attributes. And so you can actually use those to build your college list out a little bit better.
Yeah.
A second thing on that is, if you are interested in any kind of specialty, I have a student right now that wants to do animation. I have a couple that want to do nursing, architecture, film school, very important. Go to that building and see if you can talk to anybody. My animation student, she knows what the top programs are in the country, but she visited a couple and she changed her mind. She went into the one of them, and there was like no student work. It was very sterile, and it just completely changed her mind about the program. And another one that she didn't think was going to be good went exactly the opposite. She walked into the building, there's student work all over the place. There is one of the walls was specifically dedicated just to do fun things. And there was a lot of collaborations that were up on the wall, and she really, really liked that. She felt like the other one was very sterile, and this ended up being like they were a family. So that can work out very well. The other thing is, if you get to talk to somebody, I had a student that's now actually at NYU Film School. He essentially snuck into the film department, but then ended up talking to a professor there about how it worked and everything. And in his application, then when he was answering why NYU, he was able to cite some very specific things. And he said, when I visited, I met Professor so-and-so, and he ignited my enthusiasm by telling me about the program that he's running. And that made for a very strong essay on why he wanted to go to NYU. So try to have experiences like that. It's doing 2 colleges a day is a little bit rushed, but it's worth it to set the time aside to try to do something like that in the discipline that you think you're going to apply to.
Definitely. And I think that the other, major piece of this is taking the campus visit and making it really work in your favor for demonstrated interest, and engaging with your admission officer. So maybe you stop by the admission office, and your regional rep, the person in charge of your territory who will be actually reading your application, maybe they're not present, but you're able to track down that person's name. Definitely would like for you to try and send a thank you note to the general admissions office, and then send a personal note to your rep and just say, hey, I'm sorry I missed you, but I had the chance to visit. I really loved learning about XYZ. Could you tell me more about this particular program? And it really is just a nice, genuine way to show that go that extra mile and show and engage with the person who will ultimately be reading your application. So thank you notes are really important. And then also, if you're able to track down the email address of the student who gave you the tour. I know they're just, college students, but hey, why not make a connection and send a thank you note to that person for taking some time to show you the campus.
And that reminded me, the very last point on this slide is something that I love to do. The students that give the tours are trained to do it. They're good marketers or good recruiters for the most part. But they like to talk. That's part of why they do the job. And so often you can ask the hard questions. And one of my favorites is something along the lines of, what does the admissions office not want me to know? And sometimes they say, oh, no, this is great. I'm like, okay, but sometimes they just tell you these incredible stories of stuff that happens on campus. And some of them are good, by the way. But it's a good way to get much more of an impression of what life is like on campus than what you get in the admissions presentation. That's a nicely well-polished marketing presentation. And the standard tour is as well. But getting just a little bit under the covers and seeing what else is under there, these campus visits are a great opportunity to understand that.
Absolutely. And remember, you're the consumer here. So it's your job to sort of ask those hard questions and really make sure that this is in fact a potential good, right fit for you. And most of the time the students give a lot of color to their presentation. So you'll really get a lot more from physically being on a campus and walking around with a junior or a senior than you would otherwise. So get on as many college campuses as you possibly can. Try and demonstrate as much interest as you possibly can. And reach out, let us know what questions you have. This is one piece of the college admission puzzle, and it's a piece that you have more control over than you think. And so hopefully you've learned some good tips from today. Any closing thoughts, Ted?
No, just to reinforce, our emails are up there on the screen, and by all means, reach out to Carrie or to me with any additional questions about this or any part of the admissions process. We're happy to answer.
Absolutely. We'll wait a couple minutes for any questions. I don't see anything coming up in the chat. But yeah, feel free to shoot us an email if you think of anything. And thank you so much for attending.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Take care.